Three Pieces of Advice, written by Ömer Seyfettin, narrated by Nisan Kumru. Durmuş had no one but his mother. He was poor, but he was young and strong. When one of his oxen died, he couldn't plow his field. He decided to go abroad to earn money and restore his farm. Abroad meant Istanbul. Whoever is left helpless in the village, whoever's work fails, heads to Istanbul. Durmuş also shouldered his bag. He tightened his sandals. He joined the group of travelers with a stick in his hand. He crossed hills and valleys. Finally, he arrived in Istanbul. He idled for 2 days at his fellow townsman's coffee house. He didn't know what job to take up. He had no craft. I said, "At least let me be a servant." He started looking for a door. A week passed. He couldn't find a suitable place. One day at the coffee house, they recommended someone named Müstakim Efendi. His house was in Edirne. Durmuş went and found this gentleman. He kissed the hem of an old man with a white beard and radiant face. "I heard you are looking for a servant. Please take me, sir," he said. Müstakim Efendi looked him up and down. He asked where he was from. Durmuş said, "I'm from Kastamonu." "Are you married?" "No." "Do you have a mother and father?" "Only my mother. My father has passed away." "When did you come to Istanbul?" 10 days ago. "Have you been wandering around for 10 days?" "I looked for a job. Didn't you find one?" "I didn't." He asked what he would do with the money he earned and if he had any debts. He was pleased with Durmuş's answers. "All right, my son," he said. "I will take you with me, but I can't pay much." Durmuş replied, "I don't want much money, sir." "But I give very little." "How much do you give?" 1 kuruş. "A penny a day?" "No." "A penny a week?" "No." Durmuş was a bit surprised. He asked again, "A penny a month, sir?" "No, 1 kuruş per year." Durmuş thought this old gentleman was joking with him. He laughed, looked down, and felt embarrassed. But Müstakim Efendi said again, "1 penny a year. That's not all. I'll also give you advice." Durmuş lifted his eyes from the ground. "What am I to do with advice? I need money, sir." "Money is used, spent, or lost, my son. But the advice a person receives never ends. It is useful until you die." Durmuş looked down sadly again. He couldn't understand how empty words would be useful. He kissed Müstakim Efendi's hem again. He was about to leave. The old man said, "Stop, my son. Look at the walls, you see, they're all filled with books. There are 5,000 books here. I've read all of them. My life has been spent with knowledge. My hair and beard turned grey over books. I concluded that the mind is more valuable and more useful than money. Advice is like ready-made wisdom. Otherwise, I could give you 5 or 10 lira a year, but I'm giving you advice that is much more valuable than money. If you have sense, stay and serve me." Durmuş said, "No, sir. I need money, not advice." He went outside. When he was alone on the street, he thought, what was this advice that was more valuable than money? He came to the coffee house. That night he couldn't sleep out of curiosity. What was the advice he would give as a side dish for a single penny? In the morning he headed towards Edirne. He went to Müstakim Efendi, kissed his hem, and said, "I was curious about the advice you would give. I will serve you for 1 year." "All right, my son. At the end of the year, you will receive your penny and your advice." Durmuş swept the library, dug the garden, carried water, washed the stairs, and cleaned the windows for a whole year. He did every service for Müstakim Efendi. Finally, one morning, his master called him. "It's been exactly 1 year since you came to me, my son. Listen carefully, and I'll give you your advice. Do not go to a place you do not know the way to. Here, take your penny as well." Durmuş took the penny his master extended. Suddenly, he felt annoyed. He thought he would receive great advice. However, it was just empty words. "I already know this advice, sir," he said. Müstakim Efendi laughed. If you know it, good. Now you remembered what you knew. That's better. Durmuş stood there, dumbfounded. So he had worked for a whole year just for these 2 words, huh? He kissed his master's hem, took permission, and was about to leave. The old man said again, "If you want, stay for another year. I'll give you another piece of advice and a penny." "No, I don't want to, sir," said Durmuş, and left. He went to the coffee house of his fellow townsman. Again, he couldn't sleep at night out of curiosity. What could this advice be? He had endured for 1 year, worked for the first piece of advice. Now he was dying of curiosity. What was the second one? He couldn't stand it. Got up. He went to Müstakim Efendi's house. He served for another full year. At the end of the year, Müstakim Efendi called him again. This time he gave the coin in advance. Then he said, "Take your advice. Do not betray the trust." Durmuş was upset again. "Sir, I already knew this advice." "Well, if you knew it, now you've remembered it. Remembering what you know is as beneficial as learning something new." As Durmuş was leaving, his master said, "Just like last year, my son, if you stay 1 more year, I have 1 more piece of advice for you, but only a penny." Durmuş did not accept and left, going to his fellow townsman's coffee house. 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, he couldn't sleep well. What could his master's last piece of advice be?
Maybe it was something he knew. But what was it?
He kept thinking about this. He looked for a job absent-mindedly, but couldn't find one. "Since my 2 years of effort went to waste, I'll work for 1 more year and understand this last piece of advice. I won't stay curious," he said. He came back again. He entered the old door. He served Müstakim Efendi for 1 more year. At the end of the year, his master called him again. He gave him the coin. "Take your advice too," he said. "Don't send your wife to stay overnight in a place you haven't gone yourself." Durmuş shrugged at this advice too. He thought to himself, just an empty word. He got permission. As he was about to leave, his master asked where he was going. "Back to my hometown, sir." "Aren't you going to take another job?" "No." "Why?" "It's been 3 years I'm away from home. My mother is old. Let me go and see. What happened?" "Very well, my son. When you set out on your journey alone, stop by. I'll give you a gift. Take it to your mother from me, will you?" "Yes, sir," he said. He ended up at the coffee house of his fellow townsman. He told the returning expatriates what happened to him this year. They all laughed. "Man, you are crazy," they said. He no longer wanted to stay in Istanbul. But how would he go back to his hometown? He had nothing but 3 coins in his pocket. You could come to a foreign land on foot, but you couldn't return home on foot. He needed money. Everyone would hire horses with drivers. It was not possible to join this caravan on foot. His fellow townsmen felt sorry for his situation. They collected enough money among themselves to rent him a horse. On the evening they were about to cross to Üsküdar, Durmuş went to his master's house. "I'm leaving now, sir," he said. The old man stood up. "May your journey be safe. Take these gifts of mine. Bring them to your mother," he said, handing him 2 large loaves. Durmuş thought to himself, "What an inconsiderate man. Look at the gifts he's sending." But he didn't show it. He took the loaves and went to the coffee house. He put them in his saddlebag. He crossed to Üsküdar with the travelers. They mounted the horses waiting at the inn. They set out at night under the moonlight. They traveled straight over hills and mountains. One day they came across a rushing stream at the edge of a forest. They couldn't find a place to cross. Durmuş laughed at his fellow townsman's timidity in front of such a small stream. He was about to ride his horse into the water. At that moment, he remembered the advice his master gave him. Do not go to a place you do not know the way to. He gathered the reins. His horse's front legs were in the water. His friend beside him didn't stop. He urged his horse forward. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly disappeared into the water. They waited for him to come out, but he didn't. Then they found a shepherd nearby, and they learned where the water could be crossed. It turned out that it was a whirlpool. Durmuş was grateful that he didn't ride his horse before that poor fellow, remembering his master's advice. Thus he forgave his master for a year's worth of rights. On the road, his fellow townsmen were also giving him food. One day he was very hungry. He thought, what if I tear off a piece of one of those loaves the master sent as a gift and eat it? As he reached into his bag, he remembered the advice he had heard after a year of hard work. Do not betray a trust. He withdrew his hand. He said, let me not follow the devil. They walked for a few more days and nights. Finally, one day they were passing by a dark forest. He heard a voice saying, surrender, from among the trees. He stopped. The whole caravan stopped with him. Bandits had surrounded them from all sides. The leader stepped forward. Anyone who wants to save their life, leave everything they have here and go on their way safely, he shouted. No one could move. No one could escape. The bandits had blocked the rest of the road. Life is sweeter than possessions. Everyone laid down everything they had in front of the leader. The belts of lira earned through years of labor, gold pouches, silver, diamonds, gifts, and many other things. When it was Durmuş's turn, he said, I have nothing. Efe didn't believe him. What do you mean? Aren't you coming from abroad?
I'm coming from abroad. Didn't you work?
I worked. Didn't you earn money? I didn't. Liar.
I swear I didn't earn any. Ask my fellow townsmen if you want.
Efe asked the townspeople. They all explained that Durmuş hadn't earned any money and worked for a penny a year. Efe both laughed at and got angry about Durmuş's foolishness. He told his men to give this fool a beating so he would learn not to stay away from home without earning money again.
They laid Durmuş on the ground and beat him with rifle butts until he was unconscious.
All the migrants returned home penniless like Durmuş. Durmuș's mother had aged even more. The poor woman recounted the misery she had endured for 3 years. She was about to scold him, saying, Why didn't you earn money, O my son? Durmuş said, Even if I had earned money like my fellow townsmen, I would have lost it to bandits and returned empty-handed. He was very hungry. He asked his mother for some food. The poor woman started crying. There's nothing, my son. I haven't had a bite to eat for 2 days. In this saddlebag there is a loaf sent to you by my master. Let's at least break one and eat together, he said. They took out a loaf from the bag. When they broke it, gold coins scattered everywhere with a clatter. They were surprised. They immediately broke the other loaf too. It was also filled with gold. They happily gathered them all. Durmuş forgave his 2 years of labor to his master. If he hadn't remembered the advice of not going to a place he didn't know after serving for 1 year, he would have drowned in the whirlpool. If he had forgotten the advice of not betraying the trust he received in the 2nd year, he would have broken the loaves on the road, the gold would have appeared, and then he would have been robbed like his fellow townsmen. As he thought slowly, he began to understand how great and wise his master was. If he had given him a monthly salary while in Istanbul, he probably wouldn't have been able to save food here and there. Or when returning home, he might have encountered trouble because he would be displaying his money openly. As Durmuş thought, he believed that wisdom was more valuable than money. Without wisdom, money was useless. The situation of his friends was evident. They faced the consequences of passing through bandits in the mountains with full belts. When Durmuş became rich, he bought a field and a vineyard. He established a large farm. He became the lord of the village but couldn't get married. Even though he was over 30, he couldn't find a girl to marry. To the village chiefs who proposed marriage, he would say, I would like to, but on one condition. What condition? I won't send my wife to visit a place where I haven't been myself. Won't you send her to her relatives? I won't send her. You won't even send her to her parents? I won't send her anywhere I'm not present. Why? I don't know. Durmuş couldn't get his master's 3rd piece of advice out of his mind. He didn't understand the first 2 pieces of advice at first either, but later he saw how beneficial they were. In his own village and neighboring villages, no one would give a daughter under this condition. Everyone said, we cannot make our child a prisoner. Finally, an orphan girl was found in a village 2 hours away. Durmuş took her. He held a wedding befitting his status. He was happy. A baby boy was born, and 4 years passed. He never sent his wife anywhere alone. He would say, "Together forever." One day his wife's relatives came. There was a wedding in their village. They asked Durmuş for permission for 1 night.
No, it can't be, he said. Why? I don't know.
His master's advice never left his mind. They pleaded and begged. He did not agree. His own villagers also got involved with his wife's villagers. They started making remarks that the poor woman would get tuberculosis. They all suddenly turned on him. They swore Durmuş could no longer withstand everyone's insistence. He sent his wife to the village to stay for 1 night. That evening he couldn't eat out of regret. He started to worry, thinking, why didn't I listen to my master's advice? He had seen such great benefits from the first advice he listened to. Now who knows how much harm he would suffer for not listening to the last advice. He couldn't stay put. He had his servants prepare his horse. He reached the village 2 hours away at night. He went in front of the wedding house. The young men were leaning against the pairs. They were watching the girls and women dancing under the torches in the courtyard. He approached. He saw his wife sitting curled up in a corner with their child. Which relative would she stay with tonight? A doubt crept into him. He turned and looked back. An old woman was passing by. He wanted to understand this from her. "Listen, Granny, I want to ask you something. Ask my son. There's a young woman sitting in the corner with her child. Do you see her?" The old woman looked carefully. "I see her," she said. "Who is she?" "Oh, my child, don't ask. A cruel man took her. He made the poor young woman's life a living hell. Well, 4 years he is only now able to come to his village. Strange. Yes, the whole village pressured him, and this time he was able to get permission. Her husband is such a terribly cruel man." Durmuş's heart started to beat. He asked where his wife would sleep. The old woman replied, "I don't know."
Durmuş thought. He pondered. Suddenly he said,
"If you can let me sleep with this woman tonight, I'll give you 5 gold coins.
My brave one, what's easier than that?
"So, you can lay me with him?" "Of course." "How?" "His relatives are my next-door neighbors. They listen to my every word. There is a single room at the end of their courtyard. I will go and deceive them. I will lay this woman there. After everyone leaves, should I secretly take you to this room? Tell me the truth. You give the gold right away, my brave one." Durmuş took out 5 gold coins from his pouch and gave them to the old woman. He tied his horse in her courtyard. He was trembling with rage. Midnight passed. The old woman came. She took him. He led him through a small garden gate. He took him into the single room at the end of a courtyard. Durmuş had covered his face. His wife couldn't recognize him. She immediately started to scream. Durmuş didn't make a sound. He locked the door and approached her. The poor woman was curled up in the corner, both shouting and kicking. She didn't let Durmuş come near her. Her son, who had been sleeping since the evening, was on the bed. He didn't wake up to his mother's cries. He was sleeping soundly. Durmuş sat by the door to prevent his wife from screaming more. He didn't make a sound. The poor woman, who cried all night, seemed to have dozed off from fear and exhaustion by dawn. Roosters crowed in the courtyard. Durmuş gently picked up his sleeping child from the bed. He quietly went outside. He crossed the courtyard. He mounted his horse. He galloped back to the village. When his wife's relatives heard that the child was stolen at night, they were at a loss for what to do. They started to wonder what they would say to the Aga. The old couple found a solution to this as well.
"This room is already old. You can clean it. You say there was a fire at night. We couldn't save the child, you say."
They listened to him. They immediately set the room on fire. Crying and lamenting, they brought Durmuș's wife to her home. They all had frowns on their foreheads. They were lamenting Durmuş.
"Where is the child?" he asked.
"Ah, what's done is done. They said our room burned down at night. We couldn't save the child." Durmuş laughed. "Why are you crying, dear?" he said. "My condolences. Thank God we are young. God will give another." Dermush's wife's relatives seemed a bit relieved by Dermush's calmness. Just then the door opened. Dermush's child came in and jumped into his mother's arms. Those who said the child burned were surprised. Then Durmush shouted, "You see, liars, why wouldn't I send my wife to a place where I am not present?" He drove them all away. Then he turned to his wife. "If you had touched me there at night, look, take this as a lesson and never want to go anywhere without your husband again," he said. And she forgave her elderly master for 3 years of her labor.